Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like someone else had the power to ruin your entire day with just a few words? Like their opinions, their criticisms, or even their silence dictated how you felt about yourself? If so, you're not alone. But today I want you to walk away with something powerful. The understanding that your emotions are yours, and no one should have the power to control them but you. Your emotions are one of the most valuable assets you possess. They shape your experiences, influence your decisions, and ultimately define the quality of your life. But the moment you allow someone else to dictate how you feel, you surrender a fundamental part of yourself. You give them control over your internal world. And when that happens, you are no longer operating from a place of strength. You are simply reacting to external forces. The key to emotional freedom lies in understanding one simple truth. Your reactions are entirely your responsibility. No one has the power to make you feel a certain way unless you grant them that power. Think about the last time someone said or did something that upset you. Maybe it was a critical comment, a dismissive tone, or a betrayal of trust. The immediate instinct is often to blame that person for how they made you feel. They hurt me, they made me angry, or they ruined my day. But in reality, their words and actions were just stimuli. Your emotional reaction came from the meaning you attached to the situation, not from the event itself. This distinction is crucial because it reveals the hidden power you have. The event did not cause your reaction, you did. The moment you recognize this, you unlock the ability to choose a different response. When you take full ownership of your emotions, you become less reactive and more intentional. Instead of allowing every insult, rejection, or disappointment to shake you, you develop the ability to pause and evaluate. You begin to ask yourself, why is this affecting me so much? What belief or insecurity is being triggered? And most importantly, do I want to give this situation the power to control my mood? This shift in mindset transforms how you navigate interactions with others. You stop being an emotional puppet pulled by the strings of external events, and you start leading with emotional intelligence. Owning your emotions does not mean suppressing them. It does not mean pretending you are unaffected by negativity or dismissing feelings as unimportant. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Taking responsibility for your emotions requires acknowledging them fully, understanding their root causes, and then deciding how to respond in a way that aligns with your values and long-term well-being. It means recognizing that anger, sadness, frustration, and disappointment are all natural feelings, but they should not dictate your actions or dominate your state of mind. The challenge for many people is that they have conditioned themselves to believe that emotions are automatic and uncontrollable. They assume that being insulted must lead to anger, that rejection must lead to self-doubt, or that criticism must lead to defensiveness. But in reality, emotions are like signals. They are indicators of your internal state, but they do not have to be commands. Just because you feel a certain way does not mean you must act on that feeling. You can acknowledge an emotion without letting it take over. The way to develop this control is through awareness and practice. Every time you catch yourself reacting emotionally to a situation, take a step back. Instead of immediately responding, pause and observe. Ask yourself whether your reaction is truly serving you or if it is simply a habitual response. More often than not, you will realize that the situation does not have as much power over you as you initially thought. This simple act of pausing gives you the space to choose a response that is rooted in strength rather than impulse. Emotional resilience is not about eliminating emotions, but about mastering them. The strongest people are not those who never feel hurt or disappointment, but those who refuse to let these emotions dictate their actions. By taking full ownership of your reactions, you reclaim your power. You become less affected by negativity, less dependent on external approval, and more focused on maintaining your own internal stability. Relying on external validation is one of the fastest ways to lose control over your emotions. When your happiness, confidence, and self-worth depend on how others perceive you, you are placing your emotional well-being in their hands. It means that a compliment can make your day, but a single criticism can ruin it. It means that approval makes you feel valuable, but rejection makes you question your worth. This cycle is exhausting because it puts you in a constant state of chasing acceptance, leaving you vulnerable to the unpredictable opinions and judgments of others. The key to emotional freedom is detaching from this need for external validation and learning to generate your own sense of worth from within. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek approval. As children, we are praised for good behavior and corrected for bad behavior. We are taught to value grades, awards, and recognition. While there's nothing wrong with being appreciated or acknowledged, the problem arises when these external sources of validation become the foundation of our self-esteem. When this happens, we start measuring our value based on how others respond to us. If we receive applause, we feel accomplished. If we are ignored or criticized, we feel inadequate. This mindset makes our self-worth fragile as it depends on circumstances outside of our control. The truth is, no matter how much you try to please everyone, you will never be able to control how people see you. Some will like you, some will not. Some will appreciate your efforts, others will overlook them. Some will respect you, others will judge you unfairly. Basing your happiness on external validation is like trying to build a stable home on shifting sand. It will never be secure. The only way to break free from this cycle is to shift your focus inward and start defining your own value. When you detach from external validation, you begin to realize that your worth is not something that can be given or taken away by others. It is something you decide. Your confidence should not come from whether someone compliments your appearance, praises your work, or acknowledges your efforts. It should come from the knowledge that you are doing your best, growing, and staying true to yourself. This shift in mindset allows you to find fulfillment in your own progress rather than in the approval of others. One of the biggest fears people have when detaching from external validation is the fear of being disliked or judged. This fear can be paralyzing, making people hesitant to take risks, express their opinions, or pursue their passions. However, the reality is that no matter what you do, there will always be people who disagree, criticize, or misunderstand you. The most successful and influential people in history were not loved by everyone. They faced opposition, doubt, and rejection, yet they did not let it stop them. What made them stand out was their ability to believe in themselves, even when others did not. The key to overcoming this fear is to develop an internal sense of validation. This means setting your own standards for success rather than relying on others to define it for you. It means trusting your judgment instead of waiting for permission to take action. It means recognizing that your happiness should not be dependent on the opinions of people who do not live your life or understand your journey. One of the most powerful ways to detach from external validation is to practice self-approval. Instead of waiting for others to tell you that you are good enough, remind yourself. Instead of seeking praise, acknowledge your own growth. Instead of needing someone to validate your choices, trust your ability to make the right decisions for yourself. The more you do this, the less control others will have over your emotions. You will no longer feel the need to impress, prove yourself, or fit into expectations that do not align with who you truly are. Understanding your emotional triggers is one of the most powerful steps toward gaining control over your reactions. Every person has specific words, behaviors, or situations that set off strong emotional responses. It could be a dismissive tone, a critical remark, or feeling ignored in a conversation. These triggers often stem from past experiences, insecurities, or deeply rooted beliefs. The problem arises when these triggers cause us to react impulsively, leading to regret, unnecessary conflict, or emotional exhaustion. The key to mastering your emotions is recognizing what sets you off and learning how to reframe situations before they take control of you. Many people go through life unaware of their triggers. They assume their emotional reactions are automatic, as if they have no choice but to feel a certain way when a trigger is activated. But the truth is, emotions are not commands, they are signals. They tell you something about your internal state, but they do not have to dictate your behavior. When you become aware of your triggers, you create space between stimulus and response. Instead of reacting immediately, you give yourself the opportunity to assess whether your reaction is truly necessary or if it is simply a conditioned response from past experiences. Recognizing your emotional triggers begins with self-awareness. Pay attention to the moments when you feel anger, frustration, insecurity, or sadness rise quickly within you. What caused it? Was it something someone said, a particular situation, a feeling of rejection or failure? The more you identify these patterns, the more control you gain over your emotions. Instead of letting these triggers dictate your mood, you begin to understand why they affect you so deeply. One common reason people react strongly to triggers is because they attach personal meaning to situations that may not actually be personal. For example, if someone interrupts you while speaking, you may feel disrespected. But is that truly the case, or is it possible they were simply excited or unaware? If a coworker criticizes your work, you might feel undervalued, but does that mean your work is not good, or is it just one perspective? The ability to reframe these situations is what separates those who are controlled by their emotions from those who control them. Reframing does not mean ignoring your feelings or pretending that negative experiences do not affect you. It means choosing a perspective that allows you to respond with clarity instead of impulse. When you feel triggered, ask yourself, is this really about me or is it about the other person? Am I assuming the worst or is there another explanation? Is my reaction helping me or is it making the situation worse? These questions allow you to step back and view the situation with more objectivity. Another important part of managing emotional triggers is regulating your response in the moment. When you feel triggered, your body often reacts before your mind has time to process. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your thoughts race. This is where practicing the pause becomes crucial. Before responding, take a breath. Give yourself a few seconds to slow down. This small gap between feeling triggered and taking action is enough to shift your response from reactive to intentional. Over time, the more you practice awareness and reframing, the less power your triggers will have over you. You will begin to see patterns in your emotional responses, and instead of feeling controlled by them, you will learn to manage them. You will no longer feel the need to react to every comment, criticism, or challenge that comes your way. Instead, you will approach situations with a level-headed perspective, allowing you to navigate them with wisdom and confidence. Emotional boundaries are essential for maintaining inner peace and protecting your mental and emotional well-being. Without them, you absorb the emotions, opinions, and problems of others, leaving yourself overwhelmed, drained, and constantly reacting to external forces. Many people struggle with emotional boundaries because they feel responsible for how others feel. They take on negativity that does not belong to them, engage in conflicts that are not theirs to resolve, and allow the moods of others to dictate their own state of mind. The ability to create emotional boundaries is not about shutting people out. It is about recognizing that not every battle is yours to fight. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming they must absorb or fix the emotions of those around them. When a friend is angry, they feel obligated to mirror that anger. When a coworker is stressed, they adopt that stress as their own. When a family member is upset, they take on the responsibility of making them feel better, even at the expense of their own peace. While empathy and compassion are important, there is a difference between supporting someone and carrying their emotional burden. Emotional boundaries allow you to care for others without losing yourself in their struggles. A major part of setting emotional boundaries is recognizing when someone else's negativity is affecting your own mindset. Some people thrive on conflict and drama, and if you are not careful, you can get pulled into their emotional chaos. They might project their insecurities onto you, criticize you unfairly, or try to involve you in situations that drain your energy. When you do not have clear boundaries, you feel compelled to respond, defend yourself, or prove your worth. But the reality is not every situation requires your engagement. Learning to separate your emotions from the emotions of others gives you the freedom to choose your battles wisely. One way to create emotional boundaries is by understanding that people's reactions and behaviors are a reflection of them, not you. If someone lashes out in anger, it is likely due to their own internal struggles, not something you did wrong. If someone constantly complains or focuses on negativity, that is their perspective, not yours. Recognizing this allows you to detach emotionally instead of taking things personally. When you stop internalizing the negativity of others, you protect your peace and prevent yourself from being manipulated by their emotions. Another key to maintaining emotional boundaries is knowing when to disengage. Not every argument needs your participation. Not every insult requires a response. Not every emotional outburst deserves your attention. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply walk away, both physically and mentally. This does not mean you are avoiding problems. It means you are choosing to invest your energy where it truly matters. The more you practice this, the more you realize that many conflicts resolve themselves without your involvement. Emotional boundaries also apply to relationships, whether in friendships, family, or professional settings. You must recognize when someone is consistently crossing your boundaries and draining your emotional energy. Some people expect you to be their emotional anchor, constantly seeking validation, reassurance, or attention. While it is important to be supportive, it is equally important to recognize when a relationship becomes one-sided. You are not responsible for managing someone else's happiness at the cost of your own. Learning to say no, setting limits on emotional energy you invest, and stepping back when necessary are essential skills in maintaining a healthy sense of self. Protecting your emotional space does not make you selfish. It makes you strong. It allows you to be present for others without losing yourself in their emotions. It enables you to remain calm in the face of negativity instead of getting pulled into unnecessary drama. The more you practice emotional boundaries, the more control you gain over your own state of mind. Instead of being reactive to every emotional shift around you, you become intentional about where you direct your energy, ensuring that your peace remains intact. Mastering the pause is one of the most powerful skills you can develop when it comes to emotional control. In every situation, there is a moment, a brief space between what happens to you and how you respond. That space is where your power lies. The problem is that most people react impulsively, allowing emotions to take over before they have had a chance to think. They lash out in anger, shut down in frustration, or say things they later regret. But when you learn to pause, even for a few seconds, you take back control. Instead of being ruled by emotions, you make intentional choices that align with who you want to be. Reactivity is a natural human instinct. When something triggers an emotional response, your brain perceives it as a threat and reacts instantly. This is why you may feel the urge to argue when someone insults you, defend yourself when criticized, or shut down when overwhelmed. These reactions are not always logical, they are automatic. But automatic responses often lead to unnecessary conflict, regret, and emotional exhaustion. The ability to pause gives you a chance to interrupt this cycle and choose a response that serves you rather than one that controls you. The first step in mastering the pause is developing awareness. Pay attention to the moments when you feel your emotions rising. It could be when someone makes a sarcastic comment, when a situation does not go as planned, or when you receive unexpected criticism. In those moments, your body will react before your mind has time to process. You may feel your heart rate increase, your breathing become shallow, or your muscles tense. These are signs that your emotional brain is taking over. Instead of reacting immediately, recognize what is happening and remind yourself that you have a choice. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to create a pause is through controlled breathing. When you feel triggered, take a slow, deep breath. This sends a signal to your nervous system that you are not in danger, helping you regain control. A few seconds of deep breathing can be the difference between reacting with anger and responding with clarity. The goal is not to suppress your emotions, but to give yourself the space to process them before acting. Another powerful technique for mastering the pause is asking yourself a simple question. Will this matter in an hour, a day, a week? Often the things that upset us in the moment lose significance over time. A rude comment, a frustrating email, or a minor inconvenience may seem important at the time, but in the bigger picture, they rarely are. By giving yourself a moment to evaluate the situation, you allow logic to take over instead of emotion. The pause also creates an opportunity to reframe situations. Instead of assuming the worst, you can choose to interpret things differently. If someone cuts you off in traffic, rather than reacting with frustration, you can consider the possibility that they are in a hurry for an important reason. If a coworker is short with you, instead of taking it personally, you can recognize that they may be dealing with their own stress. This shift in perspective prevents unnecessary emotional distress and helps you maintain a sense of calm. Practicing the pause also strengthens your ability to navigate difficult conversations. Many arguments escalate because people respond emotionally before truly listening. By pausing before replying, you give yourself the chance to listen, understand, and choose your words carefully. This not only prevents unnecessary conflict, but also improves communication and strengthens relationships. Over time, the more you practice the pause, the more natural it becomes. You start responding with intention rather than reacting on impulse. You gain control over your emotions rather than letting them control you. You realize that not every situation requires an immediate response, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply take a breath, step back, and choose your next move wisely. One of the biggest traps people fall into is assuming that the way others behave is a direct reflection of them. When someone is rude, dismissive, or indifferent, it is easy to take it personally and start questioning yourself. Was it something you said? Did you do something wrong? Are you not good enough? But the truth is, most of the time, people's actions have little to do with you and everything to do with them, their fears, their insecurities, their stress, and their personal struggle. Learning not to personalize other people's actions is a powerful step toward emotional freedom. People experience life through their own filters. Their upbringing, past experiences, emotional wounds, and current circumstances shape how they see the world and how they respond to situations. If someone lashes out at you, it may have nothing to do with you at all. They could be dealing with personal frustrations, unresolved pain, or internal battles you know nothing about. Instead of assuming that their behavior is a response to you, remind yourself that they are operating from their own perspective, which you may not fully understand. For example, imagine you greet a colleague in the morning and they barely acknowledge you. The immediate reaction might be to feel offended or assume they are upset with you. But what if they are dealing with personal stress? What if they had a rough morning or are lost in thought about something unrelated? Instead of assuming their behavior is about you, consider that they may be struggling with something that has nothing to do with you at all. By shifting your perspective in this way, you prevent yourself from absorbing unnecessary emotional distress. Another reason people personalize others' actions is because they tie their self-worth to external validation. If someone criticizes them, they internalize it as a statement about their value. If someone ignores them, they assume they are unimportant. But the reality is, people's reactions are not a measurement of your worth. Just because someone does not treat you the way you expect does not mean you are lacking in any way. Their actions are a reflection of their state of mind, not your value as a person. Detaching from other people's behavior also prevents unnecessary conflict. Many arguments start because one person assumes the worst about another's actions. If a friend cancels plans at the last minute, the assumption might be that they do not care or do not prioritize the relationship. But in reality, they might be exhausted, overwhelmed, or dealing with personal issues. Instead of reacting emotionally, taking a step back and giving people grace can help prevent misunderstandings and preserve relationships. Social media and modern communication have also amplified personalization. If someone does not reply to a message right away, it is easy to assume they are ignoring you. If they view your post but do not engage, it can feel like they are being distant. But people have busy lives, distractions, and priorities that may have nothing to do with you. Not everything requires a deeper meaning, and not every action or lack of action is a statement about you. Mastering the ability to not take things personally also makes you more resilient. In professional settings, for instance, leaders and successful individuals often face criticism, rejection, and negative feedback. If they took every comment or setback personally, they would struggle to move forward. Instead, they focus on what they can control, how they respond and improve, rather than being consumed by other people's perceptions. Ultimately, letting go of the need to personalize other people's actions is about emotional freedom. It allows you to move through life without being weighed down by unnecessary emotional burdens. You no longer feel the need to overanalyze every interaction, and you stop letting the moods and actions of others dictate your own happiness. Instead, you focus on what truly matters: your own growth, your own mindset, and your own sense of self-worth. One of the most liberating realizations in life is understanding that you cannot control everything. No matter how much effort you put into influencing situations or people, there will always be factors beyond your control. People will say things you don't agree with, circumstances will not always go your way, and unexpected challenges will arise. The problem is that many people waste their energy trying to control the uncontrollable, which leads to frustration, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. The key to emotional mastery lies in focusing on what you can control, your mindset, your reactions, and your choices, while letting go of what you can't. Many people make the mistake of believing that if they push hard enough, they can get others to change. They try to force someone to see their point of view, expect people to behave a certain way, or seek constant validation from those around them. But no matter how much you try, you cannot dictate how others think, feel, or act. You can offer advice, set expectations, and communicate clearly, but ultimately people will do what they want. The moment you accept this, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of trying to control external factors and redirect your focus to what truly matters, your own actions and mindset. One of the most powerful things you can control is your interpretation of events. The way you perceive a situation determines how you feel about it. If someone criticizes you, you can either see it as a personal attack and become defensive, or you can view it as an opportunity for growth. If something doesn't go as planned, you can either see it as a failure or as a lesson. The power of interpretation lies in your hands. When you shift your perspective, you shift your emotions, which ultimately changes how you respond. Letting go of what you can't control also means accepting that people will not always meet your expectations. Sometimes people will disappoint you, betray you, or act in ways that seem unfair. The natural reaction is to get upset, but dwelling on it only drains your energy. Instead of focusing on how they should have acted, focus on how you choose to respond. Do you let their behavior ruin your peace, or do you move forward with strength and clarity? The more you learn to detach from the actions of others, the more control you gain over your own emotional state. Another crucial aspect of this mindset is releasing the need for external validation. Many people allow their emotions to be dictated by how others perceive them. If they are praised, they feel good. If they are criticized, they feel worthless. This gives away too much power to external forces. Instead of relying on outside approval, build internal confidence. Trust yourself, know your worth, and remind yourself that other people's opinions are just that, opinion. When you stop seeking validation, you stop being controlled by the shifting moods and judgments of others. Learning to let go does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means recognizing where your power lies and directing your energy accordingly. Instead of fighting battles that drain you, invest in areas that empower you. Instead of obsessing over outcomes you can't control, focus on the effort you put in. Instead of worrying about how others perceive you, concentrate on how you perceive yourself. Mastering this mindset takes practice, but once you internalize it, life becomes much lighter. You no longer feel the need to control every detail, and you stop reacting to every inconvenience. You learn to navigate life with a sense of calm and resilience, knowing that while you cannot control everything around you, you always have the power to control how you respond. When you focus on your core values, you create an unshakable foundation that protects you from external influences. In a world where opinions are loud, expectations are high, and distractions are everywhere, it is easy to get lost in the noise. People often seek validation from others, adjust their behavior to fit in, and compromise their principles to avoid conflict. But when you are anchored in your values, when you live with integrity, self-respect, and a commitment to growth, no external force can dictate your emotions or decisions. Your values become the compass that guides you, keeping you steady regardless of the circumstances around you. Integrity is one of the strongest pillars of inner stability. When you operate with integrity, you do not allow external pressures to dictate your choices. You do what is right, even when no one is watching. You do not bend your principles to please others or seek approval. Instead, you stand firm in what you believe, knowing that your self-worth is not tied to the opinions of others. People may challenge your beliefs, question your choices, or try to influence you, but when integrity is your anchor, their words lose power over you. Self-respect is another crucial value that safeguards your emotions. When you truly respect yourself, you do not allow others to mistreat you or dictate your worth. You set boundaries and enforce them. You do not tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or toxic behavior because you know you deserve better. Many people allow their emotions to be controlled by how others treat them, but when self-respect is at the core of your identity, you refuse to let external negativity disrupt your inner peace. You walk away from situations that do not align with your values and surround yourself with people who uplift rather than drain you. Growth is a value that keeps you focused on progress rather than external validation. When your priority is becoming a better version of yourself, setbacks, criticism, and challenges do not break you, they refine you. Instead of getting discouraged by obstacles, you see them as opportunities to learn. Instead of being controlled by fear, you embrace discomfort as a necessary part of growth. People who lack this mindset often allow temporary failures to define them, but when you are anchored in growth, no single setback can shake your confidence. You understand that every experience, good or bad, is part of the journey, and you remain focused on long-term progress rather than short-term emotions. Focusing on your core values also protects you from the influence of social expectations. Society constantly pushes messages about what success should look like, what happiness should feel like, and how you should live your life. If you do not have strong values, you may find yourself chasing things that do not truly matter to you. Seeking approval, pursuing material success at the expense of fulfillment, or comparing yourself to others. But when your values are clear, you make decisions based on what is meaningful to you, not based on external pressure. You measure success on your own terms, ensuring that your path aligns with who you truly are rather than who the world expects you to be. When your emotions are tied to external factors, you become vulnerable to constant highs and lows. If people praise you, you feel worthy. If they criticize you, you feel inadequate. If things go your way, you feel confident. If they don't, you feel defeated. But when you are anchored in your values, your emotions remain steady because your sense of self is not dictated by circumstances. You know who you are, what you stand for, and where you are going. This inner stability allows you to move through life with confidence, resilience, and purpose, unaffected by the shifting tides of external opinions and events. When you lead with purpose rather than emotion, you take control of your life in a way that few people do. Emotions are temporary, ever-changing, and often influenced by external circumstances. Purpose, on the other hand, is steady, reliable, and deeply rooted in your values and vision. Those who allow emotions to dictate their actions often find themselves making impulsive decisions, reacting to situations instead of responding with intention, and being easily swayed by the highs and lows of life. But when your actions are driven by a strong sense of purpose, you create a life built on direction, clarity, and long-term fulfillment rather than fleeting feelings. Emotions are powerful and they play an important role in life, but they should not be the driving force behind your decisions. Feelings can change from moment to moment. You may feel motivated one day and unmotivated the next. You may feel confident in the morning, but insecure by the afternoon. If you allow these shifts to determine your actions, you will never build consistency, discipline, or real success. Purpose, however, remains constant. When you are clear on your mission, whether it is building a career, improving your health, or strengthening your relationships, you do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel in the moment. Consider the difference between someone who works out only when they feel like it and someone who exercises because they have a goal of long-term health and strength. The first person will show up inconsistently, making little progress because they let temporary emotions dictate their choices. The second person, however, is driven by purpose. Even on days when they feel tired, unmotivated, or distracted, they still take action because they are committed to something bigger than their passing moods. Over time, this purposeful approach leads to real transformation. Leading with purpose also allows you to remain calm and focused in the face of challenges. When emotions take over, they often cloud judgment. Anger can lead to words spoken in haste, fear can cause missed opportunities, and frustration can result in giving up too soon. But when you make decisions based on purpose, you rise above the immediate emotion and think strategically. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause and ask yourself, what is the right decision for my long-term goals? This shift in mindset prevents regret and allows you to make choices that align with your bigger vision. Another key benefit of leading with purpose is resilience. People who act based on emotions often struggle to push through obstacles. The moment things get tough, they feel discouraged and stop trying. But those who are driven by purpose do not allow temporary setbacks to derail them. They understand that challenges are part of the journey and that perseverance is required to reach any meaningful goal. Purpose gives you the strength to keep going, even when emotions tell you to quit. This principle applies not only to personal goals, but also to leadership and relationships. Leaders who operate based on emotions tend to make inconsistent decisions, struggle with accountability, and lose the trust of those around them. But leaders who are guided by purpose inspire others, maintain stability, and create meaningful impact. Similarly, in relationships, allowing emotions to dictate reactions can lead to unnecessary conflict, misunderstandings, and regret. When you communicate and make choices based on purpose, whether it is to build trust, strengthen a connection, or resolve an issue with wisdom, you create stronger and healthier relationships. Mastering the ability to lead with purpose rather than emotion is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. It allows you to stay focused on what truly matters, remain disciplined in your actions, and make decisions that contribute to long-term success rather than short-term gratification. It empowers you to navigate life with clarity, confidence, and control, ensuring that no temporary emotion has the power to derail your greater mission. When you stop letting people control your emotions, you reclaim your power. You become the master of your reactions, no longer swayed by external opinions, negativity, or fleeting circumstances. By taking responsibility for your emotions, detaching from validation, recognizing triggers, and setting boundaries, you build an unshakable mindset. You learn to pause before reacting, control what you can, and let go of what you can't. You stop personalizing others' actions and instead focus on your own values and purpose. When you anchor yourself in integrity, self-respect, and growth, no external force can dictate your peace. Leading with purpose rather than emotion allows you to navigate life with clarity, resilience, and confidence. In the end, true strength is not about controlling the world around you. It's about mastering the world within.